So, The Fog from 1980. I'm going to start off by saying I love John Carpenter movies. I love Christine. I love The Thing. I love Halloween. Even Big Trouble Little China. They're all great, right? They're good movies. And I will say, The Fog, definitely, if you watch this and was like, all right, this is directed by a popular film director in the horror genre, I'd be like, John Carpenter, instantly, all right? Because, well, I will say, straight up, I'm not a huge fan of the Fox concept. It's just not really my particular subgenre of horror that I'm interested. Like, not a huge paranormal supernatural guy when it comes to like antagonists. But I think the areas in which John Carpenter usually specializes in, atmosphere, tension, suspense, acting, character development, and so on and so forth. I think this movie checks all of those boxes in pretty good uh, levels, I suppose. One thing I did like a lot about this movie, and one thing that stuck out, like as I was watching it constantly, was the cast. There were so many characters that are just like staples of John Carpenter's movies. And like this movie came out in 1980, just like a year and a half or 2 years after Halloween came out. So you had Jamie Lee Curtis in there, you had Tom Atkins in there, you had Charles Cyphers in there, you had Nancy Loomis in there, you had John Carpenter himself makes a cameo at one point. You even had Janet Leigh from Psycho in there. You had Adrienne Barbeau in there. Shout out to her. She's a bitch. She's one of my, like, I talked about her when I talked about Creepshow, because she plays the wife in The Crate, and she is just one of the most wretched characters in that movie in all of horror. But you even had like Hal Holbrook's in there. Like the cast was great, and you know I had watched like Creepshow and House of a Thousand Corpses and other movies, and the acting was just trash, right, at certain points. But this movie, I think the acting was sufficient. I don't think there was any issues. I will say I'm not a huge fan of Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I feel like for how much she was like slapped, she's on the cover and she's one of the stars of the movie. I feel like, well, she's definitely in it. It's not like she's Drew Barrymore in it for 5 minutes and Scream and is dead, but she's not. I don't know. I feel like she kind of falls closer in line to the kind of weak and flat female character that kind of weighs down all of the protagonists in a horror movie. But I don't think she fully checks that box, but I don't know. I feel like her character was probably one of my least favorite in the movie, which is kind of a shame because Jamie Lee Curtis is a great actress, and you know I loved her in Prom Night. I loved her in Halloween and all of the Halloween movies that she was in. But anyway, so it is, like I said, it's not my favorite plot line based movie because you know it's about a town. I don't remember what it's called. Something Bay. I watched it last night. Anyway, they're celebrating their 100th anniversary, and there was a shipwreck that killed 6 people, and one of the priests of the town finds like a little box that has like a gold coin in it or whatever, and it kind of like awakens the spirits, I guess. And so they come at midnight during the witching hour on this ship, and they are slowly killing up to 6 people, and they come, I believe, twice. And I will say, I think that the first time I saw the Revenants is what they're called, with the hooks and stuff, you don't really get to see them too much. They kind of reminded me of the scuba diver thing from Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Like the one that's like green and glowing. But I do think that they were pretty intimidating, right? It's one of those factors where you don't get to see them too much, but you see like them trudging along, and they've got like those boots, and they like slosh around, and they're, you know, covered in this fog. And you know, since this movie is called The Fog, the big thing is, you know, the fog. What do you think about it? And you know, I think, I don't know what they used to create it, because you know this is the year 1980. CGI isn't really a thing. But you know, I thought that the atmosphere, literally, I thought it looked pretty good, and there were some really fucking cool shots that I enjoyed, especially like at the lighthouse, where you see the fog start to slowly engulf, and that's how you know those revenants are around. And you know, I thought the fog looked good. I did. The fog itself, I wasn't huge on, the revenants kind of sprawling out of nowhere and just, I guess, wreaking havoc. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the story and or, the plot, I'm going to be honest. And I feel like with a rewatch, perhaps I'd enjoy it a little bit more. But the Revenants themselves, like I said, they look kind of cool. The kills in this movie, I think, there's 6 of them, clearly, because they're talking about wanting to kill 6 people. There's no blood. It's another one of those movies where there's literally no blood, but I thought the kills were pretty awesome because they take the sickle, ram it in their fucking foreheads and their eyes, and at the end, Hal Halberg's character gets decapitated. It's pretty fucking awesome, right? And, they didn't have to rely on a guy like Tom Savini because there was little to no gore effects, but, there were still scenes where you saw a fucking knife or a sickle get rammed in somebody's fucking forehead and their neck. And that was pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. I did enjoy that. And, for a 90-minute long movie, it didn't drag. I think it was paced pretty well. I think this movie was very solid, right? It's not my type of horror movie, and, not just because, it's not a slasher, or, it's not a zombie movie. Like, it's just, I don't know. It didn't jump out to me. It wasn't special enough for me to kind of be like, I'm enthralled, even though I'm not a huge fan of the concept. However, if somebody is a fan of movies like this, I think this movie has the potential to be a classic because, there aren't really any big issues that I have with it other than the fact that it's just not really a movie I'm interested in, It's like if somebody shows me a really good rom-com, but I don't like rom-coms, it might be really good. It might be critically acclaimed. It might be objectively a well-made movie, but I'm probably not going to love it as much as somebody else who loves rom-coms, if you know what I mean. But I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a nice feather in the cap of John Carpenter. I thought that a lot of the shots were kind of fucking creepy with the fog coming in. It didn't quite look campy and or kind of cheesy. It doesn't look great looking back. I mean, this movie is over 40 years old now, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it definitely did a good job of creating some spooky and creepy and chilling, tension in the atmosphere. It's so thick you can cut it with a knife. Shout out to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? This movie did get a remake in 2005, so I'm kind of interested to see how that goes. But, it's definitely viewed as one of the better and more underrated films from the 80s, and I can see why. I can. I would recommend this to a horror fan. I think I would even recommend this to a friend and or would watch it again with them if they wanted me to. I feel like my aunt, who I watched it with last night, she had commented on some of the horrible horror movies that we've watched. Like, she hated Black Christmas, and what we also watched, like The Tenant. And I don't know about any others, but she had commented on the stupid horror movies that I like, and she said that this one was actually pretty good. And I was like, I thought it was too. It was kind of nice, It was a great, a nice little John Carpenter movie with a cool cast of characters. I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think. Yeah, I didn't love it, but it's definitely a quality horror film, all things considered. 3.5 out of 5. I'll probably watch it again at some point.